AC-44 Conveyor Dish Machine. Troubleshooting. Wash pump motor. In this tutorial, we're going to talk about the wash pump motor. No operation. Our first step is we're going to use our multimeter set to AC voltage, 1 meter lead to ground, and the other meter lead to the L1 position. We're going to test L1, L2, and L3 to verify if we have main power coming into the top of the contactor. Here we're showing correct voltage coming in. Next, we're going to test voltage coming out of the contactor. Here we're showing that the contactor is not engaged and there is no voltage coming through. Our next step is that we're going to check for low voltage coming into the contactor that activates the magnet to make the contactor close its circuit. Here we have contact coming in. Next, we're going to be looking at the overload. An overload is a device designed to handle a limited amount of electricity. Overloads trip due to short circuits, overcurrent, or faulty circuit breakers. Without an overload, wiring can overheat, insulation starts to melt, all can lead to fires. Here are a couple of contactors. They come in different sizes and shapes. And here we're showing where the overloads are and where the reset buttons are located. We're going to push the reset button in to see if that energizes our wash motor. And as we're seeing, the overload was tripped. This allowed the wash motor to start working. If the overload was tripped, our next step is to make sure that we're testing our voltage and we want to check our amps. This is what's going to tell us whether we have an overdraw of electricity through the circuit. Using your voltmeter set to amps, test one lead at a time, hot leg, and check the amperage settings coming through the wash motor. Remember, the wash motor has to be running to be able to test your amps. Check to verify whether you have high amperage over the 8.5 to 9.5 amps designated for the wash pump motor. High amp draw can actually start causing the overload to trip. This lets you know a couple of things. Either you have loose wires or connections, make sure all your connections are snug, or you have a wash motor that's actually starting to go bad. Let's look and see how this looks at on the dish machine itself. First, we're going to take our multimeter. We're going to set it to AC voltage. And we're going to test our current coming into the contactor. 1 meter lead goes to ground. Your other meter lead goes to L1, L2, and L3. Verify that you have current coming in from main power. Next, we're going to check to see, do we have current flowing through the contactor? If you notice on the meter that we have no current coming through. Our next check is going to be to the low voltage coming in to activate the contactor. Here, 1 meter lead goes on the common and the other to your power lead coming into the contactor. We do have voltage coming in. Next, we're going to try to reset the overload. As you can hear, the overload reset the motor and the motor started running. Next, we're going to check our voltage coming into the contactor and what's coming out. We want to verify that there is correct voltage on each leg coming through the contactor. Remember, a drop in a leg or low voltage can cause the motor to draw more amperage, causing more current to flow that can trip an overload. Next, we're going to take our multimeter, set it to amp settings, and we're going to test one leg at a time going to the wash motor. We want to check our amps coming through to verify that we're not hitting high amperage. That can also cause it to trip. Another possibility for overloads to trip is the overload itself could actually be going bad, or you can have a bad circuit breaker. Learn more about troubleshooting the AC-44 Conveyor Dish Machine by talking to your managers, regional manager, vice president, or contact the training center for more information.